Hello children, welcome to our science session. Before we start our today's session, let's have a quick recap of chapter 10, Reaching the Age of Adolescence, whatever we have learned in the last session. Till now we have learned about two types of glands, exocrine glands and endocrine glands. Exocrine glands are glands that have duct or tube to carry out their secretion. Their secretions are called as enzymes. There are various types of exocrine glands are present in our body, namely salivary gland, sweat gland, sebaceous gland, liver, etc. And endocrine glands are those glands which do not have duct or tube to carry out their secretion. So they are also called as ductless glands. And their secretion is known as hormones. Example for endocrine glands are thyroid gland, pituitary gland, etc. And pancreas is the only gland which is endocrine as well as exocrine, because pancreas secrete digestive enzymes as well as it secrete hormone called insulin and glucagon. Got children? And now then we have learned about what are hormones. Hormones are chemicals that control certain mechanism in our body which are secreted by endocrine glands, and they act on specific target organ. For this, first they reach the target organ through blood, and they are secreted by endocrine glands in very small amounts. Then we have learned about role of hormones in initiating reproductive functions. How hormones play an important role in starting reproductive function. As we know that endocrine glands, they release hormones directly into the bloodstream to reach the particular body part, which we call that as target site. Then the target site, they respond to the hormone. And then we have learned that there are many endocrine glands or ductless glands in the body, and the testes and ovaries are endocrine glands which secrete sex hormones. The testes secrete male sex hormone called testosterone, and ovaries secrete female sex hormone called estrogen. These hormones are responsible for the male and female secondary sexual characters. And about the secondary sexual characteristics also we have learned. Secondary sexual characteristics are those characters which differentiate male and female. Then further, the sex hormones are under the control of pituitary gland. The pituitary gland, they secrete hormones which control the other hormones secreted by other endocrine glands. The pituitary glands secrete many hormones, one of which it makes ova to mature in the ovaries and production of sperm in the testes. And other than this sex hormone, various endocrine glands are present in different parts of our body, and we have learned about thyroid gland. Thyroid gland is found at the front neck. It is present in the neck portion between the windpipes, and you can see here it has a brownish red color. It is brownish red color, and it secretes a collection of hormone called thyroxine. Thyroid hormone, we can call that as thyroxine. The thyroxine, what is the function of thyroxine? We have learned thyroxine controls the rate of metabolism of the body. And this thyroxine, lack of thyroxine, it results in goiter. How this, for the production of thyroxine, iodine is essential. Iodine helps thyroid to secrete thyroxine. So lack of thyroxine results in the disease called goiter. Then we have learnt about pancreas. Pancreas, you can see here, leaf-like structure. Pancreas is almost 6-inch long gland located behind the stomach. It produces digestive enzyme, glucagon, and insulin. Insulin maintains the glucose level, and the glucagon prevents the insulin level from maintain the sugar level in the body. Then we have learnt about adrenal gland. Adrenal gland have size of you can see that walnut size and located above the kidney. Located above the kidneys. They secrete various hormones, mainly adrenaline. Adrenal gland secretes adrenaline. The function of adrenaline is to managing stress as it increases the blood sugar level, and it increases the heart rate, breathing rate, enhances the blood supply to the muscles. It also maintains a balance of salt in the blood. These are all extra knowledge. Mainly you should know about it. Maintains blood pressure, breathing rate, etc. Then we have learnt about pituitary gland. Pituitary gland has a size of a small piece size, and it is located inside the skull. It is also called as master gland because it controls the function of all the other glands. This pituitary gland secretes growth hormone, isn't it? And other than this, it also secretes prolactin, which stimulates the production of milk. The growth hormone is responsible for growth of a person. Now, let's learn about how this different types of hormones are there in a human being to control various activities, the same way, role of hormones in completing the life history of insects and frogs. We have already learned about the life history of silk moth and frog. Isn't it? The life cycle of silk moth includes that is female silk moth with lay eggs hatch into larva, then larva into caterpillar, then pupa, and then adult. Isn't it? Similarly, the frog also. Frog lays eggs hatch into tadpole, then tadpole into this adult frog. This change of from larva to adult, what we call that as metamorphosis. Isn't it? Metamorphosis, this metamorphosis, how this larva is entirely different than that of adult. Isn't it? This metamorphosis of insect is controlled by insect hormones. In frog, the metamorphosis is controlled by thyroxine. Thyroxine is a hormone produced by thyroid gland. And this production of thyroxine, it requires presence of iodine in water. If the water in which tadpoles are growing, if it doesn't contain sufficient iodine, the tadpole cannot become adult. So this metamorphosis, change of tadpole, that larva, into adult, for that, what is essential? Thyroxine is essential. The production of thyroxine, how thyroxine is produced? With the help of iodine in water. If water contains iodine, enough quantity of iodine, then tadpole will turn into adult frog. If the water in which the tadpoles are growing, if it doesn't contain sufficient iodine, then tadpoles cannot become adults. So if the same way, Do you think that if people do not have enough iodine in their diet, will they get goiter caused by lack of thyroxine? Yes, because the production of thyroxine requires iodine. That is, iodine helps thyroid gland to secrete enough thyroxine. If we do not take iodized salt, nowadays you might have heard about iodized salt, isn't it? Because iodine is essential for the thyroid to produce enough thyroxine. If we do not have enough iodine in our diet, it leads to the disease called goiter. What is goiter? We have learned that enlargement of thyroid. You can see in the picture, enlargement of the neck. Now, let's study about reproductive phase of life in humans. Reproductive phase. This phase, from which age to which reproduction happens. Reproduction, as it happens throughout our life? No, that we have learned that only it starts from the age of adolescence. Then from adolescence till which age, which phase human beings can reproduce. That is called as, what is that? Reproductive phase of life in humans. This, we know that adolescents become capable of reproduction when their testes and ovaries begin to produce gametes. Gametes means male gametes called sperms and female gametes called eggs. Then the capacity for maturation and production of gametes, it will last for much longer time in males than in females. That is, in females, the reproductive phase of life begins at puberty. In females, it begins earlier than males. Isn't it? 10 to 12 years of age, and it generally lasts till the age of approximately 45 to 50 years. Only till 45 to 50 years, female can reproduce. That is from 10 to 50 years, approximately 10 to 50 years. The reproductive age of this, what we call that as reproductive phase of life. And this, how this reproduction takes place. First, the ova begin to mature with the onset of puberty. Once that reproductive part, female reproductive part, fully developed during adolescence, when they are capable of reproduction, that is, once they attain puberty, ova begin to mature. So after it mature, what happens? One egg is released by one of the ovaries once in a month. This we have learned, isn't it? Once in 30 days, once in a month, only one egg will be released by any one of the ovaries. And during this period, what happens? The wall of the uterus, we know that is a place where fetus grow, isn't it? During this period, the wall of the uterus becomes thick so that it can receive the egg. In case if it is fertilized, then it begins to develop. So that what happens, again I repeat, during this period, that is once after the egg is matured and it is released by one of the ovaries, what happens? The wall of the uterus becomes very thick. If it is thick, so that it can receive the fertilized egg. And once if the egg is fertilized, then it starts developing. This results in pregnancy. In case if fertilization does not occur, the released egg as well as the thickened lining of the uterus along with its blood vessels or shed off will be come out, and this causes bleeding in women, which is called as menstruation. For children, if fertilization does not occur, the released egg as well as the thickened lining of the uterus before only it prepare itself to receive the fertilized egg. Got it? And if the egg is not fertilized, the egg, along with the thickening lining of the uterus, along with its blood vessels, will shed off, will be come out. This causes bleeding in women, which is called as menstruation. And menstruation usually occurs in about 28 to 30 days. So the first menstrual flow begins at puberty, and it is termed as menarche. So what is the first menstrual flow is called as menarche. At 45 to 50 years of age, that is the end of the reproductive phase, what happens? The menstrual cycle stops. This stoppage of menstruation is termed as menopause. Pause means stop. Menopause. And initially, the menstrual cycle may be irregular. After some time, it becomes normal. So children, this session we have learnt about the role of hormones in completing life history of insects and frogs. It is insects like silk moths and some animals like frogs undergo process of metamorphosis, which results in drastic changes in their body. The insect hormones control the process of metamorphosis in insects, and in frogs, the thyroid releases thyroxine, which controls the process of metamorphosis in them, and the thyroxine will produce only with the help of iodine that is present in water. If there is less iodine or lack of iodine in water, then the tadpole never turn into adult frog. Then we have learnt about various glands like testes, ovaries, thyroid, adrenal, etc., which are all controlled by the pituitary gland, which is also called as master gland, isn't it? And this pituitary gland, it secretes growth hormones as well as the other hormone, by which it makes the it control over the other gland. And then pancreas, it secretes insulin, and thyroid gland, it secretes thyroxine. Adrenal gland, it produces adrenaline. Then male reproductive organ, that is testis, it produces a hormone called male sex hormone, testosterone, and female reproductive organ, ovary, it produces female sex hormone called estrogen. Then the uterine wall in female prepare itself to receive the developing fertilized egg, and in case if there is no fertilization, the thickened lining of the uterine wall along with the egg, unfertilized egg, it breaks down and goes out of the body along with the blood. This bleeding which occur in the women, what we call that as menstruation. That's all for this session. Thank you.